Hey, what's going on, guys? So, I'm back. I'm gonna do Spell Ruler today, and I'm gonna try and jam Pharaoh Servant in at the end of the week here. And my goal is to talk to you guys about hobby and retail boxes later in the week as well. I know I haven't made a video in a while. It's been kind of busy here, so I appreciate you guys being patient. I know that you guys enjoy these videos, simply because you can go out and collect unlimited edition and be confident that your cards are from a specific period or a specific type. I'm a strong believer in providing people a safe space to exist in a market, and I think that right now with unlimited edition, it's kind of hard to do that. So I appreciate you guys watching these, and I get tons of subscribers. Just I don't even make any videos throughout the last 2 weeks. I got tons of subscribers, so I really do appreciate that you guys appreciate this, and I'm glad that my work hasn't gone to waste, because it really did take me months to make this. So because I do have a full-time job, and this is just a hobby, right? I don't make any money on these videos, at least not yet. So I really do appreciate you guys watching these and everything. So my goal here is to kind of walk you guys through Spell Ruler. I'll do the intro beginning piece so you guys understand, every YouTube should be able to stand on its own, so that you can, understand the same things that you would get from the beginning part. Even if you didn't watch it, if you just watched this Spell Ruler piece or Pharaoh Servant piece, you guys have to understand that some people don't necessarily collect the same way that we all do. So, and don't understand, some of the newer guys don't understand classic Yu-Gi-Oh! The way we do. So I'm a big believer in having specific words associated with the way that we do this stuff. So I guess taxonomy maybe might be the word, probably not the right word. But I'd like to have a set standard definition for things like that. So when I say classic Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm really talking about the first 11 sets and that time period in between those sets. So, you have classic GX, 5Ds, I don't know what fucking comes after that. Zexal, maybe? Not Zexal. I think it's something else. But I'm sorry if I don't know, all of the Yu-Gi-Oh stuff. I think it's Astral after that or whatever. I'm not extremely familiar with Modern. So there are some things I'm working on that aren't necessarily related to this, because this is already done, so you guys are seeing the end product here. So I'll talk a little bit more as we walk through, but let's get started here. So, I put all this out, so if you guys want to, pause the video and watch these and read this stuff, I will go through these slowly so that you can actually pause and read this stuff. But you have to understand, there's a PSA logo on here. Essentially what I did was I made this product for PSA, right? So you guys have seen the end result recently. PSA is labeling things 2010 to 2017. A lot of these reprints are being labeled as that. So we did do it. We got it done. PSA has made the quantum leap here, and they are labeling the reprints the way that they should be. So I'll talk through this a little bit. Basically, there are a bunch of different reprints. So there are two Legendary Collection reprints. There's the binder, and then there's the game board. So there's multiple game boards that exist. They've been made 3 different times, I think, maybe more. All I know is based off of the dating in the box. So there's the binder. The binder came out in 2010. You can look all this stuff up on the Yugipedia. I recommend Yugipedia because it's run by Yu-Gi-Oh guys, not Fandom. Fandom is not run by Yu-Gi-Oh players. So if you use Yugipedia, you'll be directly benefiting the player base. And all the money that those guys make goes back into the Yu-Gi-Oh market. So you're increasing the volume of the Yu-Gi-Oh market by using Yugipedia versus Fandom. So binder, game board, there's the original, no date on the bottom, and then there's the 2014 dated one, and there's the 2017 dated one. The 2014 and the 2017, they have textured surfaces. I think that 2013, the original one, does not have a textured surface. So characteristics, right? So these are the original ones. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how I want to explain this. So I say in here that you can use the color as a defining quality, but you have to be very careful with that. So color is not a good way to do it. I would not use color personally, and I try not to, although color does stand out for some people, and it does for me. But generally speaking, you want to look at the actual the best way to do it would be to either look at the set number if you're trying to find EN cards, and then the foiling quality is also something that's important here, because I think that the foiling quality changes. You can see that, right? So as you go through, the foiling changes on a lot of these, and then anything with stars in the Eye of Anubis will change as well, and you have to look at the lining, right? So the way that things line up on the effect boxes and stuff. So this is the big deal. This is the so what. If you remember anything from this, please remember this. All right, so there's a science and an art to this. It's important to understand the science before you use the art. So, you know, errata is the biggest way to tell between differences and printing. The card is original usually if it is the same as the first edition. Now, this applies generally to a lot of this stuff, but not specifically to some things. So a card like Trap Hole, right? So let's skip forward a little bit. I'll show you. Trap Hole, for example, right? Trap Hole's effect doesn't change. It's the same effect across the board. So when you look at the original Trap Hole card and you look at the reprint, and assume that, right, because in this version of it, it's first edition, assume it's unlimited, it would have the same effect. Right, so the unlimited one has the same effect as the reprint run. So the errata rule doesn't apply to cards like Trap Hole, for example. So what you have to do is look at the way that things are lined up on the actual text itself. So you see this is far from the border, and this is close to the border. I'm sure there's different ways to draw lines straight down the card and everything like that to see where things line up. You know, does the D line up with the P, for example, or something like that. You know, you could find ways to do this another way, but I usually just use this because it applies to LOB cards. This rule does not apply to anything but LOB, though. So the proximity of the card's effect to the border only applies to cards from LOB. So I'm only talking about specifically how the errata rule applies to cards, not necessarily talking about the way that the cards line up, how words line up in the effect box. Okay, so let's go back real quick. Right, so text alignment is the next way to do it. If you can't figure it out with errata, and again, just to capture this, the big so what here, if the card's effect is different than the first edition effect, it's not original. That is true. That is 100% true. So the card's effect should be the same as the first edition if it's original. So not every square is a rectangle, but every rectangle is a square, something like that. Maybe it's the reverse. But so basically, if you have an unlimited card and it has the same effect as the first edition, it's not necessarily not a reprint. It may still be a reprint. But if the effect is different from the first edition, it's a reprint 100% of the time. Okay? I hope that makes sense. That's a lot of information to take in and compartment. But if we move down, you know, so you can use text alignment as well. Let's see. So this is another example of the errata rule, original effect, and then you can use alignment here to kind of tell the difference. This is really hard to do for Gaia, so this is probably a bad example. But let me see if I have another one. I probably don't. Okay, let's take a look at the next one. So I'll show you guys alignment tricks as we go through Spell Ruler and Pharaoh Servant. I'm going to do Spell Ruler pretty quick, so maybe this may not apply in Spell Ruler because Spell Ruler is pretty easy, but we'll get to that. So let's see, Eye of Anubis. Right, so stars in the Eye of Anubis, we'll go forward a little bit here. All right, so this is the specific application here. So you can see that there are stars here. There's, you know, 4. It's a pattern, right, like anything else. In the original cards, there were no stars in the Eye of Anubis. This counterfeit technology did not exist back then, or if the technology exists, the technique did not exist in Yu-Gi-Oh cards, right? So this was applied later on, I believe in 2013 or 2014. So the cards so there's a problem here if you guys are following, right? So there's a binder that comes out in 2010. Those cards do not have stars in the Eye of Anubis. So you can look at, let's see if I have it. Sorry, I'm like scrolling past. These cards these cards on the left here, right? This is from a collection that I bought, and the guy considered them original, but they're not. But they don't have stars in the Eye of Anubis. So all of these cards would have come from the binder edition. So none of the, let's see if I have a better, yeah, so here it is. So this is the 2010 copy, right? What is it? Yeah, so this is Strike Ninja right here. 2010 copy, no stars in the Eye of Anubis. You can see in that black Tyranno, right? There are stars in the Eye of Anubis. You can see that, right? So these are the most current version of the reprint, and this is the 2010 reprint. All right. I know some of you might be asking, how do I know this card is a reprint? We'll get to that. Don't worry about it. This is just, remember, we're talking about stars in the Eye of Anubis counterfeit technology that we can use to date cards. All right, let's go back to the art and science. Whether or not stars in the Eye of Anubis. Yep. The amount of name title emboss. This only works on cards with an embossed title such as rares, ultra rares, secret rares. Yes. So it's not going to work on super rares, right? Because the name is not embossed. It's not engraved into the card. But if you look, so these are super rares, right? There's a difference here in the name. So this is something that I didn't capture on here, and maybe I should add to it. But you can tell like that this changes a little bit, and then it's really the most obvious on rares. I don't have a picture of it, but you can see that the color of the name on rares, the silvering, is different, and then the depth, like the hollow, right? Like, what'd you call it? It's got more relief. We'll say that's what they use in the numismatic world to describe like how a card is. How deep the coin is made and the reflectivity of the surface. Name, color, title. This is like, again, getting into art rather than that, because some of the names are different. I'm going to show you, for example, like these 2010 binder copies, they look exactly the same as the originals, so you wouldn't know if you just looked at the name, versus the name here is far darker, right? And then the foiling on the 2010 copies is much flatter. It looks like the originals, and then you can see here that the foiling changes on the card. Okay, I'm gonna go back again. I'm sorry if I'm moving really fast. I just don't want this to be like forever, because we still have to talk about the actual set. And then foiling, quality, texture, we talked about that, and then color, saturation level is like the worst way to try and figure out if a card is original or not, because again, if you look at this, like, you might think that this is an original card when it isn't. Okay, all right, let's move on to the set. I have a couple of examples here, so I'll show you this. If you want to pause and try and figure out if this is original or not, and I'm going to show you the answer. So pause it now. All right, that's the answer. All right, here are the different copies, for example. All right, here's another example. I'm going to show you the answer. So pause it now. Pause it now. All right, perfect. All right, let's move on. We already did all this. Yep. We're gonna scroll past all this. Boom, we made it. Uh-oh. All right, we're skipping back. Magic ruler. All right, we did it. So there are 4 releases, four different, discernibly different copies, right? So I'm talking about, like, I'm sure there's multiple, right? Some people will say, oh my God, there's like way more than 4. If you look at the, if you look at it under a 16-time like electron microscope, you can see that all this. I'm like, look, dude, please. There's four ways to do it with your eyeballs. Okay, you look at the card. There's a way to do it. I can show PSA this thing. Guys who don't know Yu-Gi-Oh can look at this shit and say, okay, I get it. There are 4 different things that I can collect, right? So not only am I explaining this to people who already know, right, and want to understand a little bit more, but we're creating markets for new players to come in and to be a part of the community too. So this is somewhat important because we're creating sub-markets inside of our market where people can go and have niche collections and things like that. So you might think this is unimportant. I don't care. I just want first edition. That's great. Click the pause button and exit out of my YouTube video right now because it's not important for you. So original release, you have the collectible tin spell release, and then the EN release and the legendary collection release. This is going to be really easy for you guys, so I'm going to kind of breeze through this, but I will put in the timestamps. All right, we're at 15 minutes. All right, 15 minutes. That's record time to explain all this stuff. So original printings, limited edition or marked by MRL. Yep, we're tracking that. For those that reference a magic card in their text or are a magic or are magic cards, 2003 collectible 10 copies will say spell instead of magic, but the set will still be marked as MRL. Okay, so here's what I want to talk about right now, and I'm going to get on my soapbox. If your card says MRL and it says spell, it is not an error. It's not a misprint. Okay? It's not. It's factually not a misprint. All of the cards say that. They all say that. If they all say that, they can't be misprints. It's not an error. It's not a misprint. It wasn't supposed to be something else. It was released as intended. This is exactly what it's supposed to say. Do not call your cards misprints. They're not misprints. I'm sorry. You have a cool card, all right? You have a cool card, but it's not a misprint. It's just a regular old tin release, okay? All right, you have SRL EN, comes from Legendary Collection. I'm sorry, not Legendary Collection, Master Collection and Forbidden Legacy. So it's not just Master Collection. LOB, MRD, SRL are probably the most common Master Collection cards because they are EN copy cards, I'll say, because they also come in FL1. And then SRL XXX is always from 2010 or later. So if your card says SRL and there's no EN in there, it's a Legendary Collection reprint. Period. Like, this is it. Spell Ruler is fucking easy. Trust me. Alright. So Unlimited Edition release. This is the original IPCs for it. Yep. Okay. So again, square logo, original. Pretty easy, right? Okay. Red logo, US and Canada, IPC. The same as retail. This is a 10 pack, okay? These have MRL spell cards in them. MRL spell. Not an error. Okay. Retail pack for Master Collection and Forbidden Legacy. Red Banner English edition. No US and Canada. Shonen Jumps logo. Right? Look at that. Wow. And then the IPC, it says MC at the end. So let me see if I can exit out of this, actually. And then I'm going to actually show you guys this stuff as we go along. So let me see. I'm going to kind of look at this screen here. Actually, what I'm going to do, I think I may switch screens here. Nah, I'm good. All right. So you've got the... I'll move this. Hold on. Sorry. It makes like a farting noise when I move it. It's pretty funny. If you guys don't like farting noises and think it's funny, like, I'm sorry. My wife hates it when I make like noises like that. Not like actually farting, like when I make the noise just to annoy her. So you've got the Legendary Collection binder, right? It's got the Red Banner logo, English edition, and it's got this EAN on the back, and it says this shit down here. It'll also say 6 years plus. If we look back at the originals, it doesn't say any of that, right? So it says it here, 6 years plus. It doesn't have any dates on it, right? So we zoom in here. There's no date. It just says 1996, Kazuki Takahashi, right? So this is a 2010 binder edition, and then you've got the modern reprints, 2014, 2017. It's got no ISBN, 6 years plus, and it's got this blank ash thing on the back just like those, except, look at this, 2014, you can't really see it, but, and then 2017, okay? Pretty easy. It literally says it on the pack. Can't fuck it up if you can read it. Alright, let's look at all these cards here. So we got Blue Eyes Toon. I did highlight other things that you could use to tell the difference. You can see this card cannot be summoned unless blah blah blah. Nope, excuse me. Blah 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 blah. And it says this card cannot be normal summon or set. And it just says that, right? Period. This card cannot be normal summoned or set. This card cannot be summoned unless. Okay? So there are some text differences here, but again, MRL 000, SRL EN 000, SRL 000. Same rules apply, right? So it really is this easy. I'm sorry, I don't even put that in there, but it really is that easy. If it says MRL, it's original. If it says SRL, it's not. Period. There's no way to mess that up. So images again, a monster equipped with this card increases and then you see MRL spell, SRL EN. The equipped monster gains 1,000 attack. Effects are different, so the errata rule works here. You get 500 points here, 500 points there. Pretty easy to tell the difference here. Again, MRL spell, SRL EN, SRL. Pretty easy. Spellbinding Circle says magic or trap. Spell or trap, right? So there is a fourth copy that you can collect here. Not every different card has a fourth copy you can collect. SRL EN and then SRL, right? So again, pretty easy. You just look at the actual identifier, the set number. MRL, SRL, EN, SRL. You can see the difference though. There's 3 lines of text here, there's 2 here. There is a fourth copy because Relinquished says magic, right? So anything that says magic, you can see that magic card right there. There's a copy that says spell as an equipped spell card. MRL, spell. Because again, the SRL copy will say spell if it says it at all. It may not even say it. Yeah, it doesn't even say it. It's implied. At this point, you have to understand how Relinquished works. It's funny. All right. So, magic, spell. And again, look, see these effects are the same. So, one of the things that you have to understand here is that the tin effects are not going to have errata. Because the errata for cards didn't come out until way after tins. Cards said what they said back then, and that's how their effects worked for the most part. I mean, there were some exceptions, but that was pretty much it. So, you know, when the tins came out in 2003, there were no errata effects that existed. The first errata effects started to come out in 2004 and 2005 with the release of EN cards, at least in the printed version of them. So you see that there's an errata effect here in the EN copy. That's because EN came out in late 2004. December 2004 is when Master Collection came out, and FL1 came out in 2005. So, and again, the same effect is different here, right? Because you see how it lines up differently. So the effects have changed over the years, and we can use this, we can weaponize this to use it for our Yu-Gi-Oh army. Yes. All right. Confiscation. MRL spell, SRL EN, SRL. Okay. We did it. Delinquent Duo. Again, see? Effects are the same. MRL spell, SRL EN, SRL. Does this effect not change at all? Oh, it does change. Pay 1,000 life points. Randomly discard 1 card from your opponent's hand. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it does change. You can see it. Randomly select one, or randomly select and discard, and then your opponent randomly selects and discards 1 card from his or her hand. And then selects. Oh, really? So you don't get to select anymore? Wow, that sucks. Yikes. I want to select. I liked being able to select. That's garbage. I don't like that errata. I don't recognize it. MRL spell, SRL EN, and then SRL. You got Typhoon, same thing, right? So you guys getting the trend here? This is not hard. MRL, Magic Ruler, is one of the easiest. It's literally one of the easiest ones to do from 2010 to 2017 to identify. If it says SRL in a number, in no EN, it is a reprint. It cannot be original. All right. Giant Trunade, same rule, right? Okay. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these because this, if you're not getting this at all, I don't know, man. You got to work on it. You got to work on that. MRL spell, SRL, EN, SRL. I mean, you can't even play this card anymore. This card used to be really good for Fiends. My buddy used to play this in his Necrofear deck. Like, really good. Just pick all Fiends. And you're basically either picking between Necrofear, Arcfiend Soldier, Dark Druid, and like Hades, or like New Doria. At least in 2003. It's like 5 cards. Yeah, that's crazy. Oh, well that's not right. I did something wrong here. Let me see if I... Yeah, okay. Oops. I gotta fix that. I'm glad I went through this. Man, it takes a long time to save this thing, I guess. SRL. Alright. Oh, good. I'm gonna have to fucking cut this shit out. Alright, we got it. Good. And that's not gonna be a long edit. Original. Spell. You can't see it, but this isn't original. How do I know? Because the effect is the same. Right? So I can't even see this. Like, you can't really see that it says MRL. But if you look at the effect is the exact same. Right? And it's different from this. Right? So if you look at this, if your life points are lower than your opponent's, the original, see where original is here? I'll show you guys how I know. Genius. Original is up here for this one, and original is here for the original, pun intended. Okay. That's how I know. I must have known that at the time, because I forgot if I knew. I just wanted to make sure. I was testing myself. MRL, SRLEN, SRL. Boom. We're done. Look at that. MRL, SRL, SRL. Okay? So I looked in these, and there is no reference to a magic card, because I really did look for all the things that said magic in them, because they should be different for the 10 version, but there is no magic in here. There's no magic. There's no word that says magic. It refers to Toon World, but it doesn't refer to Toon World as a magic card. Very important distinction. Toon World, right? Again, MRL, spell, 10. This card is activated by paying 1,000 of your life points. This card is activated by paying 1,000 of your life points. Pay 1,000 life points to activate this card. And then, again, they changed it back. This card is activated by paying 1,000 of your life points. So I don't know how I would have known how to differentiate this card between the spell, the 10, and the binder collection if it didn't have this difference right here. It would be really hard. Really hard. I had this problem with Dark Hole and some other cards. Banisher, same thing. Doesn't reference magic, so there's no 10 copy to collect because they look the same exact. They look exactly the same. I know some people think they don't, but they do. I'm talking to you. They are exactly the same. You cannot tell the difference. Some of you will be like, "Oh man, if you look at the color, it's different." No, it's fucking not. Okay? You don't know that. You're not. That's not science. It's not science. MRL spell, SRLEN, SRL. Okay, we did it. And the last one. Woo! We did it. All right, MRL, SRLEN, SRL. Okay, look, this is a pretty easy one, so, you know, don't spend a lot of time watching this YouTube if you don't have to, right? I'm not looking for views and hours and shit like that. Look, the same rules apply here. So if you can tell the difference based off of the things that are literally printed on the card, you should do that. Stop looking at like the color. Don't look at like the saturation levels or anything like that. It's simple. If it says MRL and it's a spell, it comes from a 10. It's not an error. If it says MRL and it says magic, it's original. If it's SRLEN, it comes from Master Collection or from Forbidden Legacy. And if it's SRL and just the numbers, then it's from like Legendary Collection 1. Either the binder or the reprints. So it's that simple. So I do appreciate you guys coming out to watch this, and you know, hopefully you learned a lot. So I'm gonna try and do a Pharaoh Servant one like immediately after this, and that way I'll have something to edit as well and put up on Sunday. So I appreciate you guys coming out. Thanks a lot. So later. Oh shit, I'm on the wrong side.